Welcome to OpsTok, the podcast where we delve into the fascinating crossroads of operations, technology, and business excellence. Your hosts, Sahand and Tom, are thrilled to have you.
In today's episode, we are delighted to welcome Matt Rebeiro, a distinguished figure in the realms of tech, ops, product, AI automation, and process optimization. With a rich career spanning over 20 years, Matt has made significant contributions across various sectors, including banking, insurance, and financial services. Matt stands out for his holistic approach. He excels in both solving present challenges and anticipating potential future obstacles. His skill in seamlessly integrating people, process, and technology has earned him a reputation as a top-tier advisor and consultant.
Welcome to OpsTok, the podcast where we explore the intersection of operations, technology, and business excellence in diverse enterprises. Here on OpsTok, we interview highly accomplished operators and owners. And I'm Tom, and let me introduce you to my co-host, Sahand.
Hey everyone, Sahand here. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce Matt Rebeiro. He's an accomplished operations professional who has worked with large and small enterprises in telecom, financial services, tech startups, and more. Super excited to have you with us and looking forward to an engaging conversation with Matt today. Matt, go ahead and introduce yourself, please. Super happy to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background to kick it off.
Certainly happy to be here. Thanks for having me. I have been working for big brands for about 20 years now. A lot of work in financial services, banking, insurance, as well as work in startups and smaller scale companies. I've been specializing and focusing on improving businesses focused on process. What do I mean by that? Well, a lot of what we do is focus and centered around process. We just don't all realize it. And so whether I'm helping a business with a technology process for developing something, or a process for designing a new product, or taking an existing process they have and optimizing it, improving it to make it more efficient or more effective, or both, those are the types of things myself, my teams have been doing for the last 20 some odd years. And so in short, I tell people, and they say, what do you focus or specialize on? I just recently launched a new brand called the Tribrid Advisor. And the three parts of the Tribrid, the pillars are tech, ops, and product, which acronym is TOP. Easy to remember, right? So my top skills are tech, ops, and product. And then within the tech, I subspecialize in AI automation solutions. Within the ops, the process design and optimization. And then within the tech, within the product, product design, product strategy, go to market from A to Z. So that's me in a nutshell. Back to you, Sahand.
That's awesome. No, that's fantastic, and I would love to get into a little bit more of the top stuff, but maybe a little bit later on. I had it on my list to talk to you about it. I love that acronym, by the way. I might start using it as well. But before we go there, tell us a little bit more about your background. When we first met, you told me a little bit about like how you got into the space, at the Six Sigma training, and all that. Before that, it was just it's such a great story, I think, for our audience to hear from you.
Certainly. So how did I put it before? A long time ago in a place far, far away. It wasn't just Star Wars. It was me starting off my career. And I started off as a broker selling insurance products. So I was a licensed broker in the province of Ontario. And I insured, protected the things that were most important to people. So whether it was their car, their house, their motorcycle, their yacht, their cottage, stamp, coin collections, the whole 9 yards. And that's where my official professional journey started, working at one of the large financial institutions in Canada. And then from there, to answer your question, I found my way gravitating towards fixing problems. What kind of problems? Problems that were rooted in process. I just didn't have the framework and the terminology and the vernacular at the time. And so I started redesigning sales processes and offering to redesign and improve different processes of the organization I was with. And then that ultimately led to some consultants coming in and starting a continuous improvement program at one of the banks. They did a first wave of hires. to create, at the time, they were calling them Lean Six Sigma Green Belts, which were essentially people who specialized in improving and designing processes. I had applied for one of the roles, was selected, and then from there went on a multi-year kind of mentorship, thanks to the bank. The mentors they brought on board taught me all the foundational elements around Lean Six Sigma or continuous improvement or process improvement. I went on to get certified multiple times as a Lean Six Sigma Green Belt through the bank, taking the best pieces of all the programs and then using it to help the bank have the best program. I then went on to get certifications in things like design thinking and agile as a scrum master, Lean Six Sigma black belt. And I just pursued everything that gave me structured approaches to solving problems better. So there wasn't a type of problem that I wasn't familiar with solving or a type of language that I wasn't familiar with speaking. So whether you're in the tech space and you want to talk agile, or in the product space, you want to talk design thinking, or in the ops space and you want to talk Lean Six Sigma, I could just flip the switch and pivot between them. Hence coming back to the top piece in tech ops and product. And I ended up creating roadmaps, identifying opportunities within operational areas where there was pain points, where there was friction, where we can make it better. It wasn't necessarily broken processes. It was just processes that could be better. And so people would often say, oh, we've already, improved this process, or it's already good. And I'd say, yeah, you're right. It is good, but it could be better because nothing's perfect. Perfect doesn't really exist, right? We strive for perfection, but that's to make us better. And so when people start to realize, hey, if I'm a 9 out of 10, I can go to 9.1. If I'm a 7, I can go to an 8. And one of the things I learned in that regard, it's catchy. People like this. I do annual trips to the Toyota manufacturing plant in Cambridge to show people firsthand. When I talk about process, yeah, they're making cars, but this is transferable into any type of sector or industry. And at Toyota, one of the trainers there who promoted and taught visitors about their continuous improvement program, he had this saying, and it stays with me today. And I've heard it like a million times from the guy. It goes, good, better, best, never let it rest until your good is better and your better best. And he goes, that's ingrained in every single person here. And we empower them, we enable them, and every person, regardless of where they work, what their job title is encouraged to drive continuous improvement. Whether it's literally a light bulb in the pop machine, and the pop machine's in a bright room. So someone said, why waste electricity on light bulbs in each button? Let's take all the light bulbs out and save power. Sure, done, says Toyota. Like, that's literally the degree of empowerment enablement. There's no idea that's a bad idea, and everyone's encouraged to share them. And so that is something that I took, and then I share outwards with other businesses and companies, saying, hey, sometimes people hear fixing and they go, oh, I don't have anything that's broken. Broken sounds bad. I'm like, okay, we can fix it, we can improve it, but ultimately it's just about continuous improvement, like incremental steps forward. And so I've been doing a lot of that, whether I'm in the tech, the ops, the product space. Spent years and years leading larger and larger teams and taking on bigger and bigger initiatives, to the point where we're like essentially an internal consulting team within the big banks. And so they could then rely on us to help dive into different areas and work horizontally through a vertical organization and follow the customer in their journey versus the specific piece of the journey in each silo, which in traditional big businesses, you own one slice of the client experience, and then you hand it off to the next department. They handle the next slice, and everyone has their piece. But from the client, they have one continuous journey. The client doesn't know about multiple legal entities. They don't know about multiple departments. And frankly, they don't want to. Like, if I want something done, I expect you to give me a great experience and figure out the back end without explaining to me why something's not working. So I spent a lot of time in that space, fast forwarding all the way to my last enterprise work, where I was leading an automation center of excellence and working with some incredible people, very, very top talent out there. And did that for a number of years, and then moved off to do some work in the startup space, launched my own consultancy officially 2.5 years ago, the Process Design Institute. And I aim to help more people solve problems, grow their businesses, find efficiencies, more effective processes. And unlike being someone who kind of sits on the fence, so sometimes someone will say, hey, I got to go between ops and technology. Like, I sit on the fence. I'm kind of sitting on like a intersection of three fences. I can do product, I can do tech, I can do ops, and I can help you all get on the same page so that the customer is happy. And so, nowadays, what I'm doing is I'm spending a lot of my time building out my consultancy practice with the Process Design Institute, or PDI, and getting people aware that I'm slowly taking on some new business here and there, as long as it's a good fit between what challenges they have and the skill sets that I offer, because there are boundaries. So, for example, like in your area of expertise, I'm not going to do implementation. I'm not going to develop custom software. That's not what I do. I come in before that, typically to help make sure that the requirements are clear, that you're actually solving a problem before you build something, that you're, or if you have something, that you're adding the right features, you understand the marketplace, you've done the right research, who are the established players, who are the emerging players. So I'll pause there, Sahand.
That's awesome. No, that's great. And Tom, isn't it amazing that, all roads lead to Toyota Production System? We've had guests, including yourself, who've been at Toyota. So it's just amazing. I am in the world of software, and a lot of our methodology is modeled after TPS. So it's just amazing, right?
Well, but TPS, right, is the Toyota Production System is their internal brand of lean. Right.
Yep.
And then you start thinking, well, what's lean? Well, Lean Startup, the famous book that's probably buried on your bookshelf somewhere there. Or Agile, which is essentially a flavor of lean. When you look, it's the same tools with different wrapping paper on it. And I'll have technologists like, oh, no, I don't do lean, I do Agile. I'm like, let me show you the lean toolkit, and let me show you the Agile toolkit. Do you notice something similar here? And they go, oh, I didn't realize.
They all come from Toyota.
And I said, let me pull out systems thinking. You want to see some similarities? Let me pull out design thinking. They're all rooted in older tools that are quite effective. And someone just made new toolboxes and reorganized them and put a different instruction booklet to make it easier, more relatable to certain kind of profiles of people. And they're like, oh, I didn't get it. But like, Toyota's been around forever, right? And you might like this, being Toyota enthusiasts, or at least people talk about Toyota a lot. One of the Cambridge plant, executives will fly there from Japan to come and meet with them at a regular cadence. And they were telling me one time, one of the executives from Japan came in there, and he put a white glove on his hand, and he walked under one of the conveyor belts, and he ran his finger, and there was black on the finger, right? And everyone said, why is that a problem? This is the first time he did it. They asked why it's a problem. And he's got translators, so he's explaining. And he said, if you don't pay attention to the things I can't see, how do I know you're paying attention to the things I can see? In other words, he wanted to make sure that there was pride in everything, attention to detail.
Right.
And if you start studying like Japanese culture, and the amount of pride they have in their work, even something like a mug, a glazed ceramic mug, they'll glaze the bottom. If you notice mugs in other countries, the part that touches the bottom is usually rough. It's not glazed.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And they go, well, nobody looks at it. In Japanese culture, like, no, people will look at everything's part of it. So the pride you have in your work and every aspect of it tells me about who you are. So if I run my hand on the conveyor belt and it's clean, I won't even bother checking all the places I need to look at.
Right.
Because I know you're not missing anything. And I'm like, oh, I love that story.
That is a really, really cool story. It's incredible that, these are universal frameworks and tools, right? That work in all different industries. So yeah, like Sahand mentioned, a lot of the guests we had beforehand came from manufacturing, warehousing, supply chain operations. I am curious to know, with your background applying those same frameworks in like financial institutions, things like that, what are like maybe the, KPIs you're going after? So in manufacturing, we look at lowering inventory or increasing throughput, lowering tack time, making things safer. But how does that translate into a more of an office financial systems type of environment?
It's a great question. A lot of people I know, they learn Lean Six Sigma in the context of manufacturing. And there's a lot of books, the early ones that were on manufacturing. Except I was specifically mentored in service. So my journey started in service and remained in the service industry, which out of a lot of the Lean Six Sigma or the Lean Six Sigma practitioners out there, it's not as common. And a lot of them like, well, what do you do? In a service industry, like how do you do some of these things? How do you see a process? Because there's no widgets moving down a manufacturing line. And there's still widgets. It's just you need to approach things differently, to your point, and have different KPIs and metrics. So we'll look at, for example, my go-to is cycle time and lead time, which cycle time, I'll tell people, is essentially the time it takes to do something. And the lead time is the total or the sum of all the cycle times. So for example, if you're a service organization, you got a contact center. Think of every major telecom company that you might call in. From the moment they answer the phone, they'll use metrics in the contact center called average speed of answer. I use that example, right? How long does it take on average to pick up the phone call? That's one metric they're looking at. So how do we improve the average speed of answer, right? And we'll look at the maximum time it takes to pick it up, the minimum time within a time frame, the average time, the standard deviation, which is the spread around the average. A lot of people ignore that, unfortunately. And the example I'll use, I'll actually give you a fun one. When I've worked with contact centers over the year, they'll say, hey, Matt, look at my average, it's good. And I said, let me see all the data. But the average is good. We don't need to look at the data. I'm like, no, you need to look at the data. They're like, why do we need to look at the data? I'm like, come here, let me show you something. Let's go to the bathroom in the building here. Well, why are we going to the bathroom? Watch. Turn on the faucets. I run hot water, scalding hot in one sink, ice cold water in the other sink. I'm like, put your hand under the left sink, left sink, hot water, right hand, cold water. Put them both in the same time. On average, your hands are warm, right? Because the temperature of that one is about 50 Celsius. The temperature of that one's like, I don't know, 10 Celsius. So the average between 10 and 50, well, split the difference, right? And they're
That's
like,
funny.
well, no. And I'm like, so if on average, let's say you want to be at 30 seconds, but when you look at the spread of your data, they're either all at 60 or one like a short call, like pick up and hang up, then no one's actually getting a 30-second average speed of answer. Your average shows 30 seconds, but no person is experiencing that. They're only experiencing the extremes, the hot and cold, the hang up or the too long. And they go, okay, I get it. I'm like, and that's why the standard deviation matters. And that's why the maximum time and the median and the minimum, it's like stats 101, even if you don't like math. And they go, okay. I'm like, so these are the kinds of things you need to measure. Now, once you go into the phone calls, there's the average handle time, AHT as they call it, right? What's the average handle time? Well, it's the talk time plus the wait time. They add it up. And so in contact centers, I've actually had a lot of fun where people don't think these things are possible. And they'll say, oh, you can't really do anything. Like this is the industry average for talk time, for example. So we had done projects in the past where I actually created new contact center metrics that have never existed before. One of them was average note time. And everyone, what the heck is average note time? I'm like, AHT, now we have ANT, ant. They're like, what's ant? I've never heard of it. I'm like, because I just invented it. And they said, well, why did you invent a new metric? And I said, well, ever heard of you can't manage what you don't measure? Well, we're not measuring it, therefore we can't manage it, which means we can't improve it. They're like, but why would we manage the note time? And I said, because the note time is taking up a good part of the average handle time. So if we can isolate that and reduce it, the average handle time will drop and you'll be better than the industry average, not aligned with it, because you're doing something different than what everyone else is doing. You're measuring a new metric and you're trying to control and reduce it. And so we actually mapped out kind of the sub-process of what does note-taking look like. No one's like, what do you mean a process for note-taking? They write notes. Let me show you, I'll document it. Step one, tell me what you're thinking, the person writing the notes. Step two, let's start timing how fast you can type. So we figured out what was the average typing speed of all the different agents in the center. We did extracts from the database and we literally looked at how many characters were produced. How many characters?
Wow.
Right. And so like, Sahand, I'm like, how many characters did your fingers produce in a minute, an hour, a day, a week, a month, a quarter? And we could take the total number of characters in the whole center, like the raw data, counting them, including the spaces, because they're keystrokes, they take time, right? And then look at them by person, because there's your ID numbers there. And we get the average time for every single agent in the contact center to produce one character.
Right.
And so now we had metrics that never existed before in the industry, in that company before, where we could say, hey, Sahand on average produces this many characters per hour, per day, per week. This other person produces this many characters in this amount of time. And then to normalize the data, we're like, okay, well, but what if he only worked 3 days a week or 5 days a week? So we divide the characters. By the time that you're in the office, we get the average time per characters.
Yeah, you can start translating what a typical inbound request is and start capacity planning based on that too, not just based on attendance of employees, right?
Yeah, types of calls. We knew how much
Right.
notes were produced by type of call. And then we started to see outliers, people who were meeting expectations and performing better. Well, what were they doing? They were typing more efficiently. So for example, in this one case, I developed a new type of documentation inspired by court reporters. So we came up with a new kind of internal language to document notes that were standardized so everyone could read them, but they were short form.
Right. I see.
So we could say the same things with less characters. And then voila, we narrowed down the note time, therefore narrowing down the handle time, therefore making the same people be able to take more calls. And we're talking millions of calls a year.
Wow.
So in large contact centers, if you save a second, Tom, 1 second, there was actually presentations that we gave that said, it's called the power of 1 second. When you've got millions of calls, on average, you save 1 second. That 1 second is worth 6 to 7 figures a year.
Wow. That's
so
insane.
Like, those are the types of metrics we would look at in the service industry. We would literally take processes like risk management, underwriting processes. We document them all and say, how long did it take end to end? Okay, 3 days, 5 days, 7 days. How long was the actual work time? 2 hours.
Right.
Well, what's happening? Oh, you work on it for 30 minutes. Then you need something from Tom. So you pause it. You put it in Tom's work basket. Tom's working on something else. So he doesn't pick it up right away. You might sit there for 24 hours. Then Tom goes to check, goes, oh, I don't understand something. Sends you a note to your work basket. You're working on something else. Another day passes. And so what might only take 2 hours in a service industry could end up taking 2 days when there's lots of handoffs.
Right.
So we would start measuring end-to-end time from the time a client wanted something to the time they got it, show everyone that and say, okay, if it only takes, I'm going to make up a number, 40 minutes to actually get this done, but we're making them wait 3 days. Let's look at this process, take a page from Toyota and identify, is each step value added or non-value added? If it's non-value added, throw it out. How do you know if it's non-value added? There's a 3-question test. Is the customer willing to pay for that step that you're doing? Yes or no? Are you doing it right the first time? And are you physically changing something? If you can't answer yes to all 3, it's non-value added, you toss it out of the process. So you can imagine like wait time, non-value added, out. Handoffs.
Yeah.
A lot of big companies, they have handoffs. It goes to this department and that department. You start looking at handoffs, you put them in crosshairs and go, okay, why not? Well, it's not my job. Okay. Can you do it? Yes, but no, stop there. Do you have capacity? Yes. Okay. You can comprehend it. You can be taught it. You've got capacity to do it. Let's just reorganize the work. We do that a lot in service organizations. And all of a sudden, we'd work with HR and change the role descriptions. People would gain new skills, so they'd be happy. They'd be more empowered, enabled. They'd feel like their hands are less tied. And all of a sudden, your job was to do X, and Tom's job was to do Y. Now you do X plus Y, and Tom has his time freed up to do something completely different. And so it's getting creative with resourcing. And to your point, capacity planning becomes significantly easier, whether you're in a warehouse or whether you're in a contact center, when all of a sudden you start looking at the widgets and the things you're doing to the widgets as almost anyone can do them, and forget who normally does the widget, forget how they normally do it, and just what needs to be done with these widgets. And then we'll figure out who does them and the order they do them in and how we'll organize the physical parts or the digital pieces all of around it.
Wow.
Yeah, 100%. I just quickly, Tom, I know you were going to ask the next question, but I just wanted to quickly mention it's such an interesting conversation, and it totally applies within large enterprises because I work in the services, and there is a ton of debate between do you, in the world of software development, in my world, do you outsource or do you have internal teams, and even if it's internal teams, multi-location departments versus the same location, all that sort of stuff. And it goes back to exactly what you said, Matt, about the handoff and the if you think of each resource as an intelligent person, obviously, but everybody has a lead time and a teardown time, just like machinery and manufacturing. Context switching from one task to the next, I may not be able to context switch at a time, but even if I were able to, it still takes me half an hour to get into it, potentially to do something and hand it off. So what you described about consolidating roles, it applies even at a firm level. So when we can do a bunch of stuff internally quickly, it brings down the total time and cost of ownership rather than going back and forth between different departments. So I totally feel exactly what you said. Sorry, Tom, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
Well, no, I just love the part about how you talked about rearranging the workforce so people become engaged and empowered. Yeah, could you just elaborate a little bit more about that? Like, because we all know there's a resistance to change. So what are some of the things and operations that you've done to get that engagement and empowerment?
Certainly, great question. So if I go and I walk into any business around me right now, and I say to someone, "Do you like change?" They're going to tell me yes. And I say, "Okay, fine. I have fun with this." I've actually done this before too. Walked up to strangers in the office. I'll tell people I'm mentoring sometimes. I'm like, "First lesson, get lost." And they go, "What?" I said, "Get lost. Literally get lost inside of a building." Why would I get lost in a building? Because when you're lost, people help you find what you're looking for. What am I looking for? You don't know yet, but you'll know when you find it. What am I doing? I'm looking for opportunities. You walk around, you shake hands, you meet people. Where am I? What am I doing? What department is this? What's your job? What are you doing? What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? Really, thanks. Where's the coffee room? Can I go get a coffee? You going to get a coffee right now? Let's continue the conversation. Literally get lost in spaces to learn more about it. To your point, I'll go to people too. I'm like, "Hey, do you like change?" Yeah, sure. I'm okay with change. Yeah, you're okay embracing change. Great. Let me see your desk. Whoa, what are you doing? You can put the pieces back. I just changed the layout. You said you're good with change. We just made a mess. And I said, "Well, that's a perspective. I think it's abstract art what I just did." Right? And they go, "Well, I don't get it." I'm like, "You said you're good with change. I'm trying to show you that you're good with change, that you drive, that you control, that you decide, that you lead. You're not good with change that is imposed upon you." Is that fair to say? And they're like, "Yeah, actually, yeah. I don't like it when people push change onto me." I said, "Fair. We're about to drive a lot of change right now." Sometimes I'll do this right before a workshop with people. I say, "Okay. So what do we need to focus on now, Matt?" Well, here's the thing. If we're going to do this large transformational project, I'm not going to do it to you, and I'm not going to do it for you. We're going to do it together. You're the expert in your area, the subject matter expert, this me. I'm here as a facilitator. Keep everyone organized, on topic, on task. And so how do we empower and enable people? They lead their own projects. I teach everyone to be their own project leaders. If someone doesn't have the skills, then we work to fill that skill gap. We look for what interests people have, what's in their development plans. If they don't have one, we help create one. And so whatever change needs to be driven that is the customers are asking for, whether it's in a manufacturing facility and it's an end product. So I know someone saying, "Hey, I need this product to, be better at this or less effective," or whether it's a contact center, "Hey, I need the calls faster," or a banking product or an insurance product, whatever it is, really comes from the customer that's going to define value. And so we start there and say, "Hey, can everyone align on, is this what the customer's saying? Can we all agree?" Yes. All right. So we all agree we need to change something. Yes. And we all agree we have different skills, right? Yes. See, level setting, alignment. We're all going to bring something different to the table, right? So we all need to be at the table first, right? Right. Great. Let's go through a problem-solving framework. And I won't get into the technicals if people don't have the background training in this area. Let's start with the problem. What's the problem we want to solve? Always start with the problem. Are we aligned on this is the problem we want to solve? I can tell you there are people who have been doing this 30, 40 years, and they've worked in consulting for 30, 40 years, and they rush to solve something where they haven't agreed what the problem they're solving is with their client. And sometimes I have seen 3, 6 months pass. Voila, here's the solution. The client goes, what the hell did you do? And the person's like, look at all this great work. Okay, but that's not what I asked you to solve.
Right.
Well, you have a problem statement, right, consultant? A what? A problem statement, 1 paragraph articulating what the problem is that you co-drafted with your primary client that they signed off on. No, we had a verbal agreement. Well, it clearly didn't work. That's why you need a problem statement.
Right.
So I always start with the problem, and then bring people to help shape that problem, then bring them along and help them analyze what's the root cause or causes that are contributing to that problem that we've agreed on. Then I bring them along and we brainstorm potential solutions that will solve one or more of the problems. And we use something called the Pareto principle, which means we're not going for perfect. We want to try and fix the 30 or 40% of things, or 20% of things. You're doing the actual Pareto, but 80-20 rule, the 20% of things that are causing 80% of the problems.
Right.
And kind of find where's that magic part where you put the least amount of effort and the greatest return. And that's where you draw the line on scope. And then we work with them to create the implementation plan. And then the most important part that I love that people usually haven't done before is Toyota teaches this. I was taught this many years ago, is the control phase. So like in the world of software development, in your world, sometimes it's called PIV, post-implementation verification, or there's different terms for it. But essentially, when you hit the go button, when you hit the merge button, when you deploy something, when you release something, you go, oh, I did it, high five. Don't high five and walk away and just expect it's going to work and it's going to be functioning and everything's just peachy. You need to monitor it, not for an hour, not for a day, but depending on the context of what you're doing, sometimes for a few days to a few weeks to a few months, to make sure that it does what it's supposed to do. And especially in the service organization, which is tougher than manufacturing, that a process doesn't revert back to the old way because something was overlooked. So we would literally have walkthroughs of an office, and we would go around people's desks and we would examine all of their Post-it notes and paper. And before we launched a change, we'd be like, cheat sheets, Post-it notes, hand them over. And they're like, why? That's not going to be relevant tomorrow. And we'd have like 10, 11 people walk around the office, start collecting them. But I just want to keep it. I'm like, you don't need it anymore. Hand it over. And people start trying to put things in their drawers. I'm like, open up the drawers. Let's see. All of the old process, the SOPs, the standard operating procedures that you printed off, you can't have that around. Someone's going to pick it up. You're going to pick it up and use it. Garbage, shredder, done. Let's look at your desktop. Open it up. Everyone's like, well, what's going on? I'm like, do you have any things saved on your desktop that are not going to be relevant tomorrow? Take them off as a control to make sure that people didn't actually go back to the old way.
Oh, interesting.
It's not easy, but it was very effective. And it was unorthodox then. It's still unorthodox now. But it was one of the things that I found that was key to the success of the projects I was leading is I wouldn't be burned more than once. So there's an old variation of a quote, goes something like, doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting different results is insanity. And it was, attributed to Einstein. And so I said, well, if last time I did this and I didn't collect the cheat sheets and then it reverted back, why wouldn't I collect them the second time and the third time? I'm going to make it my own standard to collect it. I'm not going to just say, okay, well, someone says they're not going to refer to it. Human nature is, you're rushing, oh, what's this? And you start following the old process again. So we just take them and we shred it. It would be a mass, just like shredding, deletion, email scrub, everything. I take it all out. You can't find the old way of doing it anymore.
That's incredible. And So continuing on the new way of where technology is going, and this is an area you have expertise in, how do you see the AI in the next few years in operations and product technology? What's your view on artificial intelligence?
So I'll tell you something funny. Um, I talk to people of all different age groups all the time. I love supporting students. I used to chair a student committee at one of the large Fortune 500 companies, and in my spare time when I can, I'll do some mentoring of different students and different programs from University of Toronto. I was mentoring a Western student the other day, and from all the different ages, there's different perspectives, right? Which are good things to have different perspectives, but um, a lot of people who are in university right now are in their early 20s. They think artificial intelligence is new. Right? They think it's new. In the 1980s, my uncle was working on artificial intelligence models. He's a retired engineer in the 80s. And I'll tell people this, and they go, "Oh, what was the tool he was using?" I'm like, "The tool? There wasn't like a website. There wasn't even the internet back then. You didn't just go on Google Chrome, which didn't exist, and then download a Chrome extension, and then you got an AI tool. That's not how things worked. You needed to be really bright, and you coded everything from scratch. And the coding was in Python, didn't exist back then. It was high level, complex code. It was tough. And you didn't have the computational power that you have today either. So everything was slow, right? You literally didn't have USB thumbsticks. Like, I think back to that time, like people were still using tape and they're putting cards in machines to code them. Right? The personal computer, right. I got the first in my house, a Microsoft XT computer. It was in the, I think it was like late 80s, early 90s. And I thought this was amazing. It was a giant hunk-a-tunk thing. And it had these big floppy disks you have to put in. And I'd use Corel WordPerfect before Microsoft Word to like type stuff out. And there were some simple 2D games. And I thought this was fantastic. And so coming back, where is AI going and things like that? Well, right now, I hear a lot of people saying like we're in the age of artificial intelligence. It's kind of like a half truth. What's evolving rapidly right now that people are talking about? I mean, like, AI broadly is evolving rapidly, but what's popular is generative AI, specifically generative AI for conversations, sometimes dubbed conversational AI, which in the technical world, we talk about natural language understanding and natural language processing, which isn't new either. And really what all happened was last fall, OpenAI released their first version to the public, and then everyone became an AI expert, and everyone became an AI enthusiast. And you literally saw it explode, whether you're on YouTube or Twitter or Instagram or LinkedIn. I'm an AI expert, says everybody. And what not everyone, but many of them have looked at using some of the tools. So they've developed expertise in using certain generative AI tools. But that's like a sliver of a sliver of a sliver of AI. So, where are we at right now? Well, generative AI is exploding. There's more people like mom and dad and brother and sister and grandma and grandpa who are going in the app store and downloading like ChatGPT and trying to go, oh, okay, I just got a new recipe here. It's helped me, solve this little problem or answer the question. So that's good. Like there's more awareness about people using tech now. The rate at which these tools are evolving is astounding though, because the hardware that's supporting them is also evolving rapidly. All the new chips that are coming out keep getting faster and faster. The data centers that are powering these things are bigger than farms. People walk through them, they'd be amazed how many, physical rigs are in there with like motherboards and servers and air conditioners and everything. It's like small cities of computers. So when people talk about the cloud, AWS and Google and Microsoft Azure, it's like little mini cities of computers running in the middle of nowhere. They're consuming massive amounts of electricity, so that you can get that cooking recipe you want, or figure out if I have these 4 ingredients and you're in a little chat GPT, what can I make with it? They do not realize the amount of resources required to answer that question, and the amount of resources required to train it so it was able to answer that question. I think as we look forward, we're going to see students in academia using it because they're instructed to, not because they want to. It's going to become similar to the calculator. I predict that, initially you can bring a calculator in the classroom, in a math classroom. Then you had to bring a calculator in the classroom for math, and they taught you how to use it properly. I think it's going to be the same thing. You're in an English class, you're in a science class, you're going to be taught how to use it responsibly, how to fact check sources, because of fake news, fake sites, fake answers, they're only going to get more prolific with people using these tools. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be, how do you use them and understand what's good and what's bad? And there's tools like, Perplexity AI, for example. It's a really cool tool. It'll actually give you all the sources of what it pulled from. So here's an answer I have, and here's where I got it from. You determine if this is the right or wrong source. So I think you're going to see widespread use, and it's only going to get more and more. Like, it's already in the things we do, like your Siri on your phone, your Alexa in your house, your Google Home. That's already using AI. It has been for years. The companies just haven't gone around shouting, hey, we've got this cool AI technology. Hey, we've got a speaker and you can talk to it, right? So, businesses and adoption, coming back there, a lot of businesses still trying to figure out how do they use it and incorporate it. That's a big question. So shareholders are asking, hey, are you using AI yet? Analysts are saying you should be using AI. And a lot of leaders are going, okay, I'm going to go find something to do. And I've reminded them, you have been using AI for years already. I have? Yes. You can't live today and not use AI. You drove to work in a Tesla, you're using AI. Oh yeah, but that's not for my business. You have a cell phone, it's powered by AI. Well, that's not for my business. Yes, it is. Were you on Outlook and use Copilot? That's AI. Were you in Gmail and you got a suggestion? That was AI. You literally can't escape it. You can't tell me that you don't use it. The only way you're not using it is if you're living in a wood cabin in the middle of nowhere in a forest with no internet and no cell phone. It's next to impossible to be a person in a city today and not benefit from AI. You may not be aware you're benefiting from it, but even businesses, like all the tools, whether you're using Microsoft OneNote for notes or Notion has AI built into it. You're doing, your marketing department is building something, they're using Canva, there's AI built into it. When people say, well, what if we built our own AI? I'm like, built your own AI for what? Start with the problem. What problem are you trying to solve? I've had someone say to me, well, what if we built our own large language model? Why? What's the problem you're trying to solve? And what's the data you're going to populate it with? Well, I don't know. Everyone else has their own AI. I'm like, everyone else does not. Think like even Microsoft, as big as they are, they partnered with OpenAI and then integrated their technology into the Microsoft stack. They're a leader in the market, a technology leader, and they're leveraging someone else's tech. Why wouldn't you? You don't need to build something to be innovative. It's how you use a tool that's really the innovative part.
Yeah, and really the big innovation that OpenAI has been leading and spearheading reminds me of the early days of the cloud with AWS, right? They've democratized on the consumer side through the Chat GPT. They've democratized generative AI and large language models powered for workflows, and on the enterprise side through the API, right? There's not a single day that goes by these days and I see yet another either cloud, and I've actually started recently, this is an interesting one, noticing generative AI powered by OpenAI, and I'm sure there's a lot of other API providers at this point too, but providing utility in their existing tools using generative AI. Canva, you mentioned before OpenAI, it had AI obviously, and it had some interesting features, and it was a great product to begin with. Now with OpenAI, well, they're powered by OpenAI, and if you use their GPT or you use Canva directly, there's a large world of opportunities that's now opened up. Same thing on Shopify. I've noticed on Amazon, you can with a little bit of integration, again, that not developing their own LLMs or stable diffusion models to the best of my knowledge, but they really take advantage of this easy to use API and service by OpenAI to generate descriptions of products, generate images. And I'll just mention one last example because this was really cool. I haven't tried it yet, so I will report back on how it actually works. But the database viewer, so it's a Mac client, it's not cloud, it's not web-based, it's an old school piece of software client. I noticed that you can actually plug in your OpenAI API key, and it enables and unlocks some features. So I'm curious to learn. I have an idea what it might be, but I'm curious to see what it does. So anyway, I think AI has been in existence for a long time, but this is just the sort of the mobile moment of AI. Like iPhone App Store sort of opened up the mobile moment for us, right? And anyway, that's just my thinking, but I know what you're talking about, which totally makes sense, and especially in the context of call centers, spam filtering. There's tons of it. Which areas and functions do you see with the opening and democratizing of generative AI? What are the functions and industries that you see sort of at the most, I don't want to call it danger, most opportunity for change for the better? Because I am an optimist about it all, but you always have to look out for some of the downside too. What are the industries or functions that you think are most primed for disruption?
I think we're going to see e-commerce radically different than it is now. You're going to be able to, hit the side button on your phone and say, I'm having a party this weekend. I have 7 kids coming over. My daughter turns 6 years old. Of the 7 kids, 2 are vegetarians. 2 don't like pepperoni. One's allergic to lactose. I need enough food to feed all of them. I also need some party favors. I need a cake. My daughter likes chocolate. She really likes the color pink. Can you order me a cake and food and party favors for all these kids and work it out and just use the credit card I have on file? And that thing you're talking to is going to say, okay, when do you need it by? 9 a.m. delivery. Can you get it delivered? Sure, I can find that out. Done. Your total is this amount. Are you good with that? Yeah, boom. And then stuff just arrives at your house. And I think we're 5 to 10 years out from that.
That's amazing. I was just thinking, would you like 6 candles with that as well?
Yeah, like it'll come back and actually have a dialogue with you,
right,
and know what questions to ask. We're really close to that. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see players like Amazon, like you can kind of talk to the Echo, or you have the app on your phone and you can just talk to it 5 to 10 years out and it'll place all your orders. Or, Google Shopping, same thing. Like you could potentially use that. Who's going to be leading the pack? We'll have to see. I mean, there's some strong contenders for it, but I already know they're working on this stuff right now. That's going to be really cool. I think you're going to see companies start to realize realize more, I think is a better way of putting it, the importance of having processes documented and their data in order. Because the best, smartest solution for AI still needs good data and it needs clear processes to follow. And
That's
so
right.
If you've got, I'll give real examples, systems that allow you to put in an end date that's before a start date as a design flaw, you're going to start introducing bad data, right? So, this client started with us on January 7th and they canceled on January 5th of the same year. What? It's impossible.
Right.
How did they cancel 2 days before they started? Oh, we didn't put that control in the input form. AI is not going to solve that for you, right?
Right.
You're going to,
100%.
I've seen people try and leverage AI when they haven't cleaned up their data. And they go, oh, this solution doesn't work. I'm like, no, the solution works fine. Your data is the problem, right? Like it's like the tool to the problem, right? So like It's kind of like some walking outside and like, oh, I'm trying to use scissors to get the branch off my tree. It's not working. The scissors weren't meant to take the branch off. You need smaller
Right,
pieces
right.
first, right? Like it's just not a match, right? You got to prep your data first before you plug this tool in. Otherwise, of course, you're going to get nonsense spit out at you,
Yeah,
right? Garbage
yeah,
in, garbage
100%.
out, the old saying.
Yeah,
Uh,
I like garbage in, garbage out. But I based on talking to you just right now, I was inspired to say good data, good AI, right? Process too, but definitely good data will lead to good AI. So um, anyway, I was going to actually, Matt, because we're coming up on towards the end of the conversation, the allotted time. We want to be respectful of your time. As a last question, I wanted to make sure we cover, is there anything we or our audience can do for you? I know you're embarking on some really interesting adventures. So tell our audience, what can we do? How can we find you? What can we call you up about?
well, I'm on a few different social platforms. I'd recommend try LinkedIn first. You can get me there. It's my handle's the Matt Rebeiro, THE Matt Rebeiro, Rebeiro. There's a link in there. You can book an introductory call if you want to have a chat to see if there's something that you want solved, you want help with. I have a select number of 15-minute time slots open for introductory calls. Love to hear from people. Always love a good challenge. Bigger the challenge, the more exciting I get. In some niche areas, I'm the person people get referred to when they say, "Oh, I've tried everything and it doesn't work." They're like, "Have you spoken to Matt then?" No, why? Talk to Matt first, because Matt's relentless. He doesn't give up until he gets an answer. I love good challenges. So reach out to me on LinkedIn. And again, anything top technology, ops, product, AI automation tooling, process design optimization, product design, underlying strategy, go to market, any of those areas, love to help out in.
Amazing. That's awesome. We will make sure to put the link to your profiles on the YouTube and the other channels as a link. Beautiful talk. Really enjoyed it. The master problem solver, master conversationalist, Matt. Really enjoyed this conversation. So thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me too, Tom and Sahand. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you. Really enjoyed it.